Today's episode is with a fan favorite. It is Dr. Joe Park. We're going to hear all about his experience, his bout of COVID, and a lot more. Let's batch. This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 year's resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements. So many other couples we didn't see coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code VISIBLE24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com. Welcome to Bachelor Party. I'm Juliet Litman. I'm laughing because I'm talking to Dr. Joe Park and he's being funny. Hello, how are you?
Good, Juliet. How are you?
I am great, thank you. I just learned something about your medical history. May I reveal it on this podcast?
Of course you can.
I don't want to have a HIPAA violation. Perhaps it's out already. You had COVID, huh?
I had COVID, yeah. I was back in March when I was at the height of the pandemic in New York, or just before it started peaking. And yeah, it was scary times for sure because, you know, the science was kind of out on how bad it was and everyone was just very scared. And I was also very scared. So, but yeah, had it, been there, done that. And
were your symptoms bad?
It was pretty bad. Yeah, I had like high fevers. I had chills, had fatigue, and you know, for the most part, it came through unscathed. Except I used to be 6'4", and my genius level intellect somehow just vanished. But besides that, I'm pretty much the same.
Did you get shorter?
I got a little shorter. My rippling muscles in my 12-pack just disappeared for some reason. I mean, it really took a lot from me.
That is wild. So then did you have to go back to work after you recovered?
I did, yeah. I had to obviously go back to the hospital, and it was pretty much our hospital was in a red zone, and it was pretty much one big COVID ward. And yeah, took care of a lot of patients with COVID, which was both rewarding, scary, and very sad.
I have so many questions about that. We'll come back to it at the end. Then we can talk about the Bachelorette. But
Sure.
Did you have to do a lot of intubations as an anesthesiologist, or oversee them?
A ton. We did a lot of intubations, and I know this is a bachelor party podcast, and it's supposed to be light and fun.
It's okay. But, I brought it on. I want to know about it. It's interesting.
It was a very harrowing period of my life, and obviously in the lives of New Yorkers and the country in general. And I did do a lot of intubations, and I will say the first few days I did it, I didn't know the exact numbers as far as what percentage of people who got intubated, who I intubated, would get extubated. But after a few days, I started looking into the numbers, which were new, which were just coming out.
Yeah.
And they were staggering and so gut-wrenching as far as the percentage who would never get the tube taken out. And so, yeah, I definitely made a point to, before I intubated, if they were aware enough to say, hey, is there anybody you want to talk to beforehand? And anybody you want to just say anything to before we.
Oh my goodness!
So, but it was definitely a difficult time.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much for. It probably sounds weird, but I think people feel like comfort knowing that there are doctors like you taking care of people. So thank you. We could talk about The Bachelorette now. It could be less heavy. At least for a little. I promise I will ask more COVID questions. You probably get a lot of them. So
happy to talk about it all with you, Juliet. Seriously, all good.
I appreciate that. So how did you end up on the show? How did you apply? Who applied for you? What's your origin story?
Origin story. So it all started back, it was a dark and stormy night back in March 31st, 1984. Parents, it was a love child. No. I got someone reached out to me from the show through social media. I think it's because I've been on some silly list of eligible medical professionals in New York City.
Goodness. That's funny. How'd you get on that list?
Oh my God. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think it was through the pool that they chose from was from an app, and I was on the app. But how they chose me is beyond me.
What app was it? Was it a dating app for doctors?
Not for doctors. I think it was just Hinge, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So I'm not sure how they chose me out of the many qualified applicants. But
I was going to request to be on the dating app for doctors, so that's disappointing. Carry on.
And so someone reached out to me, and it was in the early spring, and I had been pretty much trapped in my 400-square foot apartment, and had been going to work and coming back, and the only thing I had to do was hop on a Zoom call, and I was like, sure, like let's do it. I'm down to just talk about it. I won't shoot down any options right away, and one thing led to another. And I'm in the Palm Desert and doing this thing.
So like, what were the questions like on your original Zoom call?
Favorite color, favorite food, how tall are you? Do you have a 6-pack or a 12-pack or an 8-pack? No.
That would have been really funny. I feel like they just could have asked you to prove it.
How many Instagram followers do you have? No, it was just like, really, I think they do a good job of vetting you as a human being. And so they it was just very free flowing. They just asked you to talk. They just asked you, so how's life? How's dating? Like, what kind of music do you like? What are your interests? And so I think they try to find, and to their credit, I think they do a good job finding people who have interests outside of just, like being attractive. Like there are people they find people who are relatively personable, I'd like to think. And in my experience with hanging out with these guys, they are.
Yeah, this season for sure.
Yeah.
Have you watched the show before?
No, I'd never watched the show before. And I was definitely surprised. And I'm watching it now, obviously, and I'm super, super entertained by what I'm seeing. It's like the things people say and the things people do are it's crazy.
New first-time watchers are really fun. One of my Bringer colleagues is named Van Lathan, and he co-hosts a show with Rachel Lindsay. And Rachel was the Bachelorette several years ago. I feel like she's like kind of like a very prominent Bachelor figure, so you've maybe heard of her. But anyway, Van is watching for the first time, and his reactions are just like so funny. He's just like, I cannot believe this shit. And so and I think it's just so funny because the show's been on since 2002, but it's like a renewable energy source. People just keep finding it. They keep watching it. It's still as popular as ever. I mean, this season's ratings have been pretty good. It's crazy. Yeah. Like from watching it as a viewer, what is like the thing that has surprised you the most from this season? Like whether someone said or.
I'm not sure if it's this season or every season, but it's like, every time we talk to the Bachelorette, it's 5 minute out. It's like 5 minute interactions, 10-minute interactions. And I treated this as like reality, not quote unquote reality. And
what does that mean? You treated it like reality? Like what does that mean
I would
to
say you? to me, and I think I would imagine most people, it's like, hey, like I'm Joe. I am from New York, and I am a physician. I'm an anesthesiologist, and I love surfing, and I love running, and I love these are my passions, and I live in here. I live in Lower East Side, and the normal stuff, just like getting to know you as a person. And I didn't expect it to be like, I've never felt this way before in my life. And I love you. I mean, I think I love you. And then also going in for like a kiss after like literally knowing somebody for like 5 minutes, all of that as I'm watching is really fun to see my buddies doing that. And also, like, I didn't know someone, like, why didn't anyone tell me
You didn't know, yeah, you didn't know the rules of the road. I feel like you don't have good female friends in your life if you don't know anything about The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Where were your friends to tell you what to do?
In fairness, I did obviously there's an NDA and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that I was going on. So I didn't. And so no one knew what was going to go on. And only after I got back, they're like, dude, like, didn't you know that this was like the world you were entering and how this works and that works? Like there's so many members like of Bachelor Nation who just come out of the woodwork. Like, you know, like my aunt, like my 70-year-old Korean aunt, it was like, Joe, like, you know, you were on The Bachelor. Like, I love that show. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's crazy. The walks of life that are in Bachelor Nation.
That's hilarious. Oh my goodness. So that's just really funny. So you had no idea what you were doing. Did you make out with either Tayshia or Clare?
I don't want to kiss and tell.
Well, Juliet, the show, you're already off the show.
I'm gonna play the fifth.
Really? Come on, it's The Bachelor.
I'm gonna play the fifth here.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
You really are a normal person. It's very strange. Not kissing and telling. What did you tell your employer, and how much time did you ask for off?
That's a good question, and I've heard questions before about, and good questions, and very fair questions about, like, dude, how did you take time off during the pandemic?
I said that on this podcast. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to question your commitment to medicine.
No, that is, and I think it's a completely fair question. And not, I mean, I don't know if you said you're living in LA for part of the time, or you're mostly in.
I've actually been in New York for the entire pandemic. I arrived here on March 11th. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I have like a number of weeks off vacation. I actually didn't use much of my vacation time this year. So I just used all my vacation time and said, for as long as I last. And honestly, I was like, I didn't think I was going to last very long. So the 6 weeks I had, I thought would be more than sufficient to cover the time spent I was there. And as far as like the pandemic, actually the height of it was in May when there were, I think the early May was like 6,000-ish cases. And by the time I left, a day, per day. And by the time I left, it was down to around 300 cases. And all the resources have been mobilized. And honestly, at that point, we were probably had overshot or, you know, been ready for it, but maybe, anyway, overshot a little bit and maybe a little too late at that point. But as late as you can be for a pandemic that no one could predict it. So,
right.
But anyway, it's gone down significantly, and it's actually the perfect time because nobody was having elective surgery, and cases were down, and so it was this weird in between that actually worked out great. My boss was like, "This is the perfect time for people to be taken off because there's not enough work almost for people to go around." So,
I had like 2 surgeries in recent memory. And both times my anesthesiologist, as they were like giving me anesthesia, wanted to talk to me about reality TV. Like, no joke. Like once I remember like just losing consciousness talking about Vanderpump Rules. And the other time, I think we were talking about The Bachelor. So it seems to be a thing.
Did they know it was you though? Did they know you were the Juliet Litman of the
One of 2 times they did. Only the first time I didn't. It was just like a way to relax, was to talk about Vanderpump Rules. So, you know, now you'll have tons of talking points for your patients.
I gotta say, in some weird I actually do that too, and actually some of my patients will know that. But what we do is we give them medication to start, called Versed, midazolam, before. Just it's kind of like a liquid, like an IV form of Xanax. But I give that to them. For pre-surgically, it's great because people are obviously very nervous and scared. But once you get that, they are more relaxed. But they also forget things afterwards. But after I give them that medication, especially people with a certain demographic, I'm like, hey, just as a talking point, I'm actually on this show right now. If you watch it, you watch any reality television? And sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, a little bit. Like sometimes I watch The Bachelor. I was like, yeah, I'm on that show. Like, yeah, catch me on Tuesdays, whatever. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, all right, count back from 10. And they're like, wait, what? And then Oh, that's and then sometimes I remember, so we talk about it afterwards. But
That's
that's kind
really
of a
funny.
random
That's really
fun
funny.
fact that I do.
So was it
Yeah, but
relaxing
anyway,
being on the show? Because it seems kind of good. I mean, you haven't seen previous seasons, but I think it seems like this group of guys is having more fun than on like the previous Bachelorette season. I mean, the previous season there was one guy who was like a major villain, so it was kind of
yeah,
different. But it just seems like it was fun. Like, did you enjoy yourself?
I think especially, I mean, thinking about where we came from, like all of us in this point in time, being in the pandemic where everyone's wearing masks and everyone's wearing gloves. You can't touch each other. You can't meet new people really. You're really by yourself a lot. Going to this place where again, we quarantined beforehand. We took all the necessary safety precautions. But afterwards, we could just hang out with each other. We could hold each other, hug each other. We could sometimes kiss a girl that we liked. Um, it was this dream world, this crazy, um, like dream that we all existed in for a period of time, and it was amazing. I think most of us appreciated that moment more than maybe other seasons because
Yeah.
they were living in a pandemic before, and meeting people and touching people and existing in a world without masks and gloves was normal, whereas this time it wasn't. So yeah, we had a lot of fun, and we definitely definitely appreciated not having to live in that world for a period of time.
What was it like exiting the bubble?
It was sad. I'd said this before, but I shed some tears during the exit interview, um, and it was a culmination of obviously not continuing my journey with Tayshia, because I would have obviously loved to have gotten to know her a bit better and see where we could have gone, but also leaving the guys and also knowing that now I'd have to snap back to this reality where, again, you are just have this distance and you're not able to interact with people in the same way I just interacted with them for this period of weeks. And yeah, it was emotional, and it was definitely um, it was hard in the beginning.
It must have
But
been.
this
What was the first thing you checked on your phone when you got your phone back?
the first thing was for sure to see was to see what my family was up to. Obviously, we have a group text, so just to see if everyone was okay. And I knew, obviously there's a producer who, if everything wasn't, they could get contact, and so that was fine. But just to see what they were up to, the pictures, what I'd missed during that time. And after that, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, just to see what my friends are doing. Um, Obviously, we don't have internet or television
Right.
while we're filming, but I mean, really, I didn't expect anything aside from COVID and the election to dominate the news. So,
And
and I didn't really miss that much.
you didn't. So I was going to say that's basically what happened over the summer. In July and August, it was I think I'm trying, and the NBA came back. That was basically it.
Yeah, that was cool. There was one day where we got to watch like part of a game, and it was like it was I don't know how to describe it. It was like those scenes in a movie where like the inmates get to watch like movie night. The inmates, everybody get huddled around this really
It's a good
small
part of
TV,
Shawshank when they're watching a movie. Yeah.
That's exactly. We were like Shawshank watching a movie. So yeah, it's beautiful.
That's really funny. So what was it like when Tayshia came in? Like, did you know who she was, first of all?
No, I did. I mean, some of the guys did, but I had no idea who she was. But I mean, obviously, I have eyes, and so I
She's
saw her,
beautiful.
and she's beautiful, and she's radiant, and has a great smile, and definitely the energy changed when she got there.
Interesting. In what way?
Yeah. So with Clare, it was pretty obvious that Dale was a front runner from the very beginning, from the first impression rose and all the group dates thereafter. But with Tayshia, like the interactions I had with her, and I think and all the other guys had with her, you can tell she was really listening, and we were really having a good back and forth. And there was a presence to her being like her presence alone, but also her being present with each conversation that was a little different than with the previous Bachelorette. And everybody just felt a little bit more, how do I say this? People were in it a little bit more. Like the games really began at that time where people really got invested in that person. Whereas before, again, there was some commiseration with each other. Like, oh, did you get to talk to Claire? Would you have a good conversation with her? Not really. Yeah, me neither. And with Tayshia, it's kind of like, oh man, like she's awesome. And like, yeah, I had a great conversation with her. Did you have a good conversation? You agree? Like, it became, you wanted it more. And so it became realer in that sense.
She seems like a fun hang. I think she also seems like she's having fun. One thing that's been nice about this season as a viewer is like, it's such a weird time to be alive. That watching people experience joy, I find like incredibly joyful myself. And it seems like she is having fun. And it just seems like there's like a lot of just like good vibes happening. And honestly, it like emanates through the TV when like you look around, you're like, is everything okay? I'm not sure today. We'll find out. Like it comes across really strongly. And I think like I was on this week's episode, Zach mentions like there's a raging pandemic, and like when like the outside world comes in, it's like kind of a reminder of like what the backdrop of what the show is, and it just makes it like more potent in a weird way. I don't know, I have found that like very fun this season.
That makes me happy to hear you say that, because it is I mean, it's reality television, but it is still television. That's the whole point. There is a level of escapism, and the point of it is for people to enjoy it, and to and you seem like a compassionate person, empathetic person. So you seeing that joy obviously makes you feel joy, and that's a beautiful thing. And it makes me happy to hear that you say that, and I hope that's true for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think television is such an escape. I was just recounting. 2020 has actually been an excellent TV year. So there's a lot of good stuff to watch. Which brings me to my next question. You couldn't watch TV. What did you do all day? Like, what was going down in the 115-degree heat at the La Quinta?
Oof, that's a really good question. I think there's definitely a lot of different things that people did. I mean, we definitely worked out a lot. There was this area, everyone brought bands, and there's this area by the pool. We coined it Muscle Beach, where there was a tree and a little bit of shade, and we hung like bands from it. So there was like, in 110-degree heat, like 10 dudes shamelessly working out, like just getting
so
their
California
sweat on, just working it. And but honestly, I one of the good things that I like about me is I find a way to fill the time. I'm generally never bored, so I found a guitar somehow, through some way, and so I would practice some guitar.
I think it was one of the instruments for the musical date.
Yeah. That guitar had been passed around a little bit, and I'm not sure if this is to my credit or to DeMar's discredit, but I quote unquote taught him the guitar.
Nice.
Taught him that A minor chord. I'm not sure if that worked in his favor or not, but but I'm responsible for it. So either you're welcome or I'm sorry. I'm not sure what to say about that.
I really want more DeMar. He seems like a really fun guy. When he was on this week, like as a narrator, and I really enjoyed it. He seems great. Also, I love spinning, so that's a plus.
DeMar is good vibes 100% of the time. Like, just positive energy. I love DeMar, and he's always smiling. He's also, not for nothing, he was like the Bachelorette sage. Like, he's like a super fan. And one of the jokes I wrote for DeMar, who knew that, because all of us knew that about DeMar, I was like, I'm not sure if DeMar was here to find love or just because he wanted front row seats to the Bachelorette, because he's such a super fan. And so anytime something happened, like, DeMar, has this happened before? Like, you're the Bachelorette sage. Like, tell me, like, what's going to happen now? And he would kind of give us a rundown. It's like, oh yeah, in season 3 of The Bachelorette, this actually something similar happened, and then this
sounds
happened.
Like I should get him on the podcast.
Tell me, DeMar. DeMar would be great for the podcast. He's again, he's got great energy and good dude. Love DeMar.
Who else are you tight with from the cast? Do you call it a cast? What do you call it?
The cast is I call it the cast, the bros, the Sweet 16, whatever you want to call it. We have a group text, whatever. But I'm close with Brendan.
Oh my God. Brendan, where is his accent from? Do you know? I just cannot place it. I know he's from like Massachusetts, but
yeah,
I'm great week for Brendo, as I learned he was called. Someone called him that. I thought it was funny.
I don't know who called him. I've never heard that once, but
oh my God. Then you got to watch this week's episode. Someone calls him Brendo.
I'm gonna watch it. We'll see. I I think he's from right outside of Boston. I think it's like not Boston proper, but outside of Boston. He's also part Portuguese. I don't know how much that plays into it. So it could be like a little bit of an amalgamation of a lot of different influences.
Okay.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. All right, it's official. I think I've discovered the ultimate coupling of all time. Like any good relationship, they really balance each other out. One is super sweet, and the other, well, they can be a little nutty sometimes. It is, of course, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, the perfect combination of peanut butter and chocolate. So perfect, some would call it true love. Find Reese's now at a store near you. This episode is brought to you by Visible. Maybe you've already let your New Year's resolution slip. We all have, but you can still make a 2 years resolution with Visible. Right now, you can get a one-line wireless plan from Visible for just $20 per month for 24 months. 24 months is basically 4 Bachelor seasons. That could be 4 engagements, 4 broken engagements, so many other couples we didn't see coming. It's really an eternity in Bachelor Nation. And that's unlimited 5G data powered by Verizon with no annual contracts. Switch now at Visible.com and use the code VISIBLE24. Don't miss out. Offer ends January 31st. New members only. Promotional rate with service on the Visible plan. For additional terms and network management practices, see Visible.com. This episode is brought to you by eBay Authenticity Guarantee. eBay knows that when it comes to jewelry, authenticity is the real gem. When you see the blue check mark that says Authenticity Guarantee, it means your next piece will be carefully inspired by jewelry experts and will always be worth its weight in gold. Whether you're looking to make a statement or build the perfect everyday look, eBay is making sure you get the real deal. With eBay Authenticity Guarantee, you can trust that jaw-dropping piece will always arrive jaw-droppingly real. Ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms. Could you feel when Tayshia was like getting interested in someone? Because there's a couple of clear front runners right now. It's got to be Ben, Zach, Ivan, Brendo. I think, and it seemed like Riley perhaps as well. I feel like could you feel when like someone came back with a really good date? Like it seemed like Ivan and Tayshia had a great time together, and like could you feel that the next day?
I think on the group dates, you could kind of feel it. You could feel it a little bit. Like I was on the wrestling date with Brendan, and you could feel a little bit, and with Ben as well. But she did a good job of spreading the love when you were there. And again, she was so present that I think at any given moment when you were talking to her, you thought, I mean, she was there, and like you said, she's fun. She's having a good time, and I think everybody thought they were having a really good time and making a connection with her. And that's to her credit, because that's the kind of person that she is. She connects with people.
Absolutely. This is really random, but how's the food at La Quinta for your meals?
It was good for the most part. They had they had like this snack bar that had every type of protein snack you could possibly think of. Protein chips, protein powder, protein like goo, protein drinks, protein jerky, and they had tons of caffeine, and those two things really fueled the guys: caffeine and protein.
That's like honestly disgusting, but okay, if it worked for you guys. Do you feel like you were forced into working out more than you usually do? I know that you run, but I just feel like it seems like it was like basically one group fitness class for however many weeks.
There was a thing there called Body by Ben.
Oh my God.
Ben was a trainer, and there definitely was not like a pressure, but like there was a unspoken pressure. Like these guys are all working out. Like, why wouldn't I work out? Not for nothing, we're going to be in front of, between 4 and 6 million people, whatever. So, it's just natural to want to look your best.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
And so we would all work out all the time. And there was definitely
any other activities? Reading, swimming, anything?
There was no other there was a pool. There was actually a race at one point where I don't know. I mean, we didn't get to see it, but we had a couple of pool races too that were pretty fun.
Did you have a roommate?
Yeah, I didn't have a roommate for most of my journey, and that was just completely random. Most people did. I guess I just got lucky by not.
Nice.
Maybe it's because I smelled a certain way. They didn't want me to
no one liked you that much. They didn't want to tell you.
That's what it was. That had to be it.
Um,
But worked in my favor.
Going into this season, and still, I think very much a conversation around the show is about diversity and how the show is trying to improve diversity. As an Asian American, like, were you aware of that conversation? Well, as just a human, were you aware of that conversation? And then as an Asian American, like, did you or do you feel any pressure since you know, are one of the non-white people on the show? And I think this season way more diverse than usual, but I think like in the totality of the program, it's still definitely a work in progress. So I'm just curious, like, what was that experience like for you?
I definitely felt it more when I got back.
Hmm.
Again, not having watched the show, I didn't have a full understanding of how few Asians there had been on The Bachelorette in particular. But while I was there were a couple of people, producers and other people, who had said, "Oh man, like it's nice to see like more representation, especially this season." And there haven't been that many Asians. And I said this on Nick's podcast, but there was this one handler who I got very close to, and again, out of all the lyrics and out of all of the things that came to my mind, you know, because we don't have music on the show while we're there either. We have nothing.
Right. It's a licensing nightmare if they play music.
Exactly. So no music. Like, so, but the lyric that came into my mind was from H to the Izzo by Jay-Z. And the line was, "I do this for my culture." And there were a couple of times when it was late at night, and where it's just like it's a psychological battle, where I would just think, like, man, like you're doing this for you for the most part, but just remember also you're doing this for your culture too. You're doing this for maybe a little bit to represent your background and where you're from, and that definitely gave me a little bit more perspective, a little bit more pause. Again, mostly it was just for me. I'm not going to say that I was doing it for. It was not a altruistic experience. It was a complete selfish experience, but a little bit. There was definitely some perspective given when I thought about the fact that there hadn't been many Asian Americans.
Yeah, interesting. I want to talk about your Bachelor future. I'm very concerned, very invested.
Tell me everything, Juliet.
I love when people say that to me. So I'm just worried you're going to go to Paradise. And here's why I'm worried. Well, this is why I think that you'll be asked. First of all, I feel like you're a fan favorite. I just feel like people were like, give us more Dr. Joe Park. We didn't get enough. He had so many funny jokes for the roast. Why didn't we get to see them? All we got was his Instagram. So I feel like there is a yearning for more Dr. Joe. Are people calling you Dr. Joe these days?
They are, but you call me whatever you want. Joe, Dr. Joe, Origami Joe, Joe Schmo, whatever you want.
Origami Joe. Okay. That didn't occur to me, but I'll consider it. So I feel you'll be asked. I actually have no idea how casting for Paradise works. But I just feel like they'll ask you. But I just feel like I don't know that's the right move for you, because here's the thing. If you go on Paradise, you're just sort of like, you're like in the system. It's kind of like the farm system, but the opposite. It's like, I don't know what that would be. The grocery system. I don't know, but it's just like, instead of being it's like what you do after you're in the majors. And I don't know. I just feel like I don't really know you, but we're getting to know each other right now. I just feel like you should be a doctor. And I'm just really worried that you're going to abandon your career and all that you've accomplished through your many years of school and go on Bachelor in Paradise. I just don't think that's the right move for you.
First of all, I don't know anything about Bachelor in Paradise.
Do you want me to tell you about it?
I can't. Yeah, is there do you have a pithy
sure.
3-liner? Yeah,
sure.
Tell me, please.
They should be filming it right now because it's basically a bubble show. Like, I don't know why it's not happening. They should have been filming it really this whole time. I've got a lot of ideas. None of them are ever acknowledged. It's fine. Basically, have you ever watched MTV's The Challenge?
No.
Oh my God. So you just don't watch television?
Oh my God. Not much.
Oh my. What's your favorite TV show?
Jeopardy.
Really? R.I.P. Alex Trebek.
It's semi.
The Ringer just published a book about Jeopardy. If you'd like to read it.
I'll have to look it up. I do like this show.
Questions in the form of answers. Okay, Jeopardy. Wow, that's very trivia focused, which I love a good trivia night. So that's great.
Say the word. It's nerdy. Just fine, Juliet. Say the word.
Wasn't even thinking it. I think Jeopardy is incredibly popular. It's why it's been on for a very long time. So we're all nerds then. Anyway, Bachelor in Paradise is like taking, anywhere, like it's taking like 40 Bachelor people, a little bit less, put them in a resort in Mexico, and you just have to like go on dates. And the goal of the show is to couple up. And then if you get to couple up, you get to stay. It's very counterintuitive. You couple up, you should have to leave, but whatever. Again, not consulted. And so it's like sort of like the after party-esque of being on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. And then you like go into the system, and then you start doing like bar appearances. You start doing Instagram advertisements. You start doing all these things that I just don't know if they're right for you, Joe. I'm just worried about it. And I just feel like, I follow you on Instagram. I know that it's a place for fundraising and seemingly like exercise. And I just feel like, do you need to be adding some paradise vibes to the mix? I think the answer is no. And I'm just concerned, and I just don't know if it's the right move for you.
First of all, Juliet, I appreciate your concern for me as a physician and a human being. It is endearing, and I definitely take it to heart. From the time we've known each other, I know you've always had my best interests at heart. For the
last 33 minutes, I've been really worried about your well-being.
I know you're in it for the right reasons when you talk to me.
Exactly. Like, here's who will definitely shine in paradise. Number one on my list is easy. He's going to crush it. If you're like 100%, if you're a good talker and you just like are kind of like just going with it, then I think you're really in paradise. Also, Ed, I feel like we'll get into some weird hijinks. And I just like, I don't know. Those are my top two picks in the paradise draft. If we're making teams.
Bennett, you don't put Bennett up there? Bennett's got to be pretty high up in the paradise draft. No,
I'm a little sick of Bennett after this week. It's just like a little bit too much with the gifts. You weren't there.
Too much Bennett?
So you might not know about it. Or do you hang out with him? He lives in New York.
I've seen Bennett a few times. Yeah.
Do you hang out with people?
He lives like 15 minutes.
Like, not like in general, but given COVID, like, what's your socializing vibe? Everyone's got a different level of comfort. I'm curious what yours is as someone who's had it and as a physician.
Generally, I mean, socially distance outdoors, like so, but not really indoors. So I'll say that mostly outdoors, and which is getting harder now in the past few weeks. Like outdoor restaurants do have heaters, but it's been getting harder for sure.
I think the worst part is the early sunsets. Yeah. It's very hard to like casually be like, hey, let's go get a drink or something or a coffee. But like, you're like, it's 4:30 and it's pitch black outside. So it's kind of hard.
Agreed. I agree with that. So I'm not sure what to make of it, like what the answer is right now. But fortunately, we'll see for how long restaurants still do have outdoor seating with heaters. And so that's what I've been doing for the most part.
Okay.
But,
so you have seen Bennett though. Who else is in the mix? There was a lot of New Yorkers. Riley's from New York too, right?
Riley's from New York. I've seen Riley since I've been back as well. I've seen Jordan, and
cool.
It's really awesome to be able to interact. I saw Brendan since I've been back. So nice to see these people again outside, mics off, cameras off, and just like be like real.
Yeah.
And it's very, very refreshing to do that.
That is nice. Do you feel like you have like new lifelong friends?
Definitely. And I know like people have said that before. Oh, you make like lifelong friends. I'm like, how strong can your bond be after a few weeks or however long you're there? With complete strangers.
You didn't go to summer camp. You don't know how much a bubble.
I didn't go to summer camp.
Yeah. You got screwed.
That is 100% true there. And it's like, again, not having been in jail or having been in the army, but there's certain experiences where when you're in it together, it's like it forms this brotherhood that I think is unmistakable and undeniable. And there's definitely this brotherhood amongst the guys who went through it, and the long nights and the constant miking and the cameras everywhere and it's all the self-reflection, all the interviews, all the ITMs, all the beer, all the stuff. It's like you really have to have gone through it to understand it. And it was a fun experience, and one that again I shared with some awesome guys.
By the end of your experience, was it easier for you to like emote? Because that's kind of like the currency of the show is emoting, right? Was it easier for you to do that? Because it's definitely not normal to like talk to a stranger about like how you're feeling. Also, no, I don't think a lot of people, unless you're really actively engaged in therapy, which in this city of New York, many are, it's not really normal to be like, this is how I'm feeling and I want to analyze it. Like it's sort of, I think the human nature is to not do that unless you're like very neurotic person.
Yeah.
So like, did that get easier? Like, did you get desensitized to the miking and the cameras?
You definitely get desensitized to it, but as far as the question, the quote unquote self-reflecting, it is self-reflecting. But I think for myself, and when I've talked to other people, I think it's true for other people too. It was kind of like a bell curve where in the beginning it was hard, and then you get used to the questions and you get more comfortable answering the questions. But then later on, it's the same type of question, and then you get
Yeah.
tired of answering the same type of. It's not real reflection. I'm not talking about the difficulties of life and how it's not. They're not existential. It's all about the same thing. It's more like, so what did you think? Like, do you want the rose? And you're like, I mean, what do you think? Do you
You're
think
like, yeah,
I
I'm
want the
here. I'm playing the game.
I mean, what, so I think it was a bell curve where, and there's no good way to do it either. It's difficult for the people asking the questions to come up with really novel questions after a certain period of time, and not for nothing, I'm not going to say I don't know the other cast, but we're all a little older. We went through like life experience a little bit more. And I'm not sure they've ever had someone from Harvard and like Ed's super smart. I'm a little older. Zach's super, like we're all a little bit older, 36, 37. And so it's like the same questions eventually got a little old, I would say. And so it was easier it wasn't hard to answer the questions, but it was just like, okay, I understand what's going to happen now. And yeah, so that's what I'll say about that.
Okay.
That's all I got to say about that.
Okay.
That's all I got to say about that.
What do you think about Noah? Do you feel that Bennett's problems with him are justified, or is there a side of Noah we're not seeing? Like, what's your take on him?
I think those are might be the two most different people. Not the most different, but two very, very different individuals. Where Noah's 25. He has that youthful energy about him. He's coming in with this brashness and this unknowing, like as far as what goes on. Like there's no decorum with him, and also where he's coming from. He's a nurse. He's a traveling nurse, and so he's coming from a healthcare background. Whereas Bennett is a bit older. He's in the finance world where there is a little bit more of like networking and things of that nature. And they just come from very different backgrounds, have very different styles. And so them clashing, I don't think there's a right or wrong there. It's just, they're very different human beings. And when you stick them together in this small bubble, and that bubble shrinks as people leave, it's like, well, they're going to clash. It's going to come to a head. And that's what happened.
I feel like we just didn't get to see much of Noah's personality. Like Bennett, we've gotten to see his personality, and he seems funny and fun and obviously like down for whatever. He's just sort of like letting it ride, going along with the hijinks or whatever. I feel like Noah, we haven't gotten to see that at all though. So you're just like, why is Bennett like so irritated with this guy? It's just because he's 25. I mean, and I don't know. So I'm just curious. There's clearly a lot that you don't see. I mean, obviously, many of your jokes were not included in the roast very, very unfairly. So also, I thought Claire had a lot of good jokes in that one too, actually.
She did. And she actually, she said she came up with them all, which is pretty impressive. They're pretty funny.
They were good. The ones about Chris Harrison were hilarious.
Yeah, they're
really good.
And he takes it in stride. Chris is what a G. He just rolls with it all. I think we all were kind of burning Chris Harrison.
He's a real pro.
Sat there and took it.
A pro's pro, as they say.
He's been through it.
He really has. I mean, he's 18 years in. So how much are you getting stopped on the street? Now you're back home every day. Like, what's it like?
No, maybe like once or twice. No,
I don't believe that. It's because of a pandemic. If it was not a pandemic, you'd be getting stopped a lot more.
I can attribute it to a couple of things. One, always wearing a mask, and now it's cold, so I'm wearing a hat. But two, I also think the Asian thing, it's kind of like maybe some people do recognize me, like, oh, but is that him? Like, we're not sure because I'm not sure if that's a factor. But I got recognized the most, but 2 days ago, actually, I went for a run, and I just finished my run. I was walking back after I'd done the mileage, and I got recognized 3 times in a span of like 10 minutes. But one was, hey, are you the guy from The Bachelorette? And I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, we love you. All this stuff, like the niceties, which was really flattering. 2 was my brother's friend who like just knows me as me. And 3, someone said, are you Jet Li?
Oh
and I'm like, no. I'm not.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
and then I hear him and his friends walking away. I'm like, damn, I could have sworn that was Jet Li. So
Oh my God. They were just like famous Asian guy.
I think only one of those counts. So that was like
Oh my
the
God.
most I've been recognized ever.
What about at work?
At work, I mean, everyone, I think a lot of
No
people
patients?
know.
Do you mostly interact with patients that are unconscious?
No, but soon thereafter. And also the people who need surgery, for the most part, are people who are older
Yeah.
and who generally aren't Bachelorette fans for the most part. So I don't think a single patient who I haven't explicitly stated as they were falling asleep has said, oh, like, I know you. Like, I don't recognize you. Like, not a single one. And again, wearing a mask and a hat probably help with that respect. So
right.
I'm good with that.
I guess that makes sense. If you're like, I think that person looks familiar, and like you can only see the strip of their eyes. I mean, it's sort of like a serial killer thing to consider. Like, can you know someone just from their eyes? But
I'm happy to be your doctor and not the guy who played strip dodgeball. So that's fine.
Is why you should not be going to paradise, my friend.
I'm gonna do some more research into that and see.
Let me know what
obviously,
you decide.
The biggest, Juliet, you'll be the first person I will tell and consult with.
You know how football players or high school football players do press conferences when they sign their national letter of intent to like say where they're going to play school. You should do that.
Hats.
Yeah, exactly. With Paradise, like if you decide to do it, once you're allowed to, you should like do a impromptu press conference to explain why you're going. Just be like, I've made my choice and I'm going to Mexico.
I have thought about it very briefly, actually, literally just before we had this conversation, after we started talking, for a reason, for some random reason. But I do think on some level, I was never big on social media before, and I'm still not that big on social media now. But I will say, I do think there is a real potential for good. Like you can do so much good.
Yeah.
On social media. And if going away to a beach and trying to find love with beautiful people is what I have to do in order to spread the love, that's a cross I'm willing to bear. You know, that might be something that I'm willing to that's it's only
like a 3 or 4 week commitment though.
It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it. You know,
you'd still have some vacation days. It's only 3 or 4 weeks, so you could do it.
But again, I who knows? I hope I'm not. I honestly hope I'm not single at that time. I hope I'm able to find someone through this and find a good human to spend some time with. So.
It was really great chatting with you. Thank you so much. Best of luck in the hospital. I hope your antibodies remain strong, and you should get a vaccine soon. You're a physician.
Knock on wood. There's a lot of great candidates out there, and the idea is hopefully by January, some of them will be available. And we're so close, maybe to the end of this.
I hope so.
Dark period.
I really hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing and for coming on the show. It's great to meet you and chat with you, and talk to you soon.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sure we'll be in touch at some point.
I hope so. And I will be back on Tuesday, our last Tuesday, I believe. I think the show's moving to Monday the week after that. Thank God. All is right in the world when the Bachelors and Bachelorettes on Monday.
It's the first start of normalcy returning. That's
I know.
That's
it's
the
true.
First step.
It's true. We're just paving the way for Matt James 919. Can't wait. You're a fellow New Yorker. Thanks again for listening and have a great weekend.